Hey, welcome to Love Flying. So in this video, I'm gonna take you on a flight with me to a place called Mustang Beach. This is a spot that's been on my list for over a year now. I've really wanted to fly there. It's near Port Aransas, or Texans call it Port A, which is down on the Gulf Coast. So I've flown over it probably a dozen times now, mostly going to Corpus Christi for volunteer flights. You may have seen some of those videos. So last week, my friend Chris and I played hooky. We left work and flew there for a quick lunch. I took a couple conference calls at the airport, and then once I was done in the pilot's lounge, we hopped in the Malibu and took a quick flight straight down to the coast. The flight down was pretty easy. It got a little bumpy because we had to stay down low to stay under a military training area, but the flight home actually ended up being kind of stressful. We had to race the weather back, and I'll show you what that looked like here in a minute. But unfortunately, I screwed up. We were in a hurry to leave, and I didn't hit the right button on the voice recorder. So you're not going to get a lot of audio on the way back other than the voiceover I'm going to do. And I have been able to go into the ATC archives and pull some of the audio so you can hear some of my radio calls. So hopefully you'll get a sense for what it felt like flying back racing the weather. All right, let's go fly.
Wow, you got switches up here. That's when you know you've made it.
I know. That was specifically the one I wanted, was the high switches. All right, gotta test the lowest. Pegs. Alternators. Strobe. Increase. Mixture full rich. 2, 3. All right, there we go. Let's start it up. That's smooth. Oh, yeah. Executive ground 715 Bravo Bravo is at the ramp with Delta, ready to taxi. We'll just do a via.
San Antonio, VOR, Victor 163, Corpus Christi VOR, direct, maintain 3000, expect 1000 1 minutes after departure, departure frequency 127.22, squawk 4622.
Alright, so we're cleared to Romeo Alpha Sierra via guards Victor 17, San Antonio, Victor 163, Corpus, then direct. We're going to be 3000 on takeoff, expect 1000, 10 minutes after departure. 12722 is our squawk, 12722 is our frequency, 4622 is our squawk. 5 Bravo Bravo.
5 Bravo Bravo, right back correct.
Alright, good to go. Airspeed's alive, everything's green. Looking for 75 to 80. It gets squirrely early, this thing wants to fly.
Yeah, it's got some giddy up.
Yeah.
I can imagine with like a crosswind, it gets light on its feet. You got to be pretty
Yeah, you gotta be
on it with the
top of
rudders, yeah. Or on it with the nose wheel, I guess.
Alright, gear up. Flaps coming up.
Very nice.
Malibu 715 Bravo Bravo, contact departure, have a good day.
Over to departure, 5 Bravo Bravo.
The flight down was a bit bumpy. We flew through a military training area and we had to stay below 8,000 feet. The choice was to go around the training area and choose our altitude, or go direct through the training area, saving about 20 minutes in flight time in exchange for staying under 8,000 feet. So we chose the direct route, and it was bumpy, it was a little uncomfortable, but it ended up being cool because we got to fly under a bunch of military trainers and got a close look at a few of them. Other than some of the bumps on the way down and avoiding traffic, it was pretty uneventful. The weather was perfect, and the barrier islands were really beautiful. It was great flying over top of them. The runway at Mustang Beach is pretty short. It's only 3,400 feet, so being on speed was critical. We landed, added some fuel, and parked. There aren't any rideshare options in Mustang Beach, so we called a cab to come pick us up. And she met us at the airport, took us to Irie's, which is a local taco joint. The food there was really good. Nothing fancy, but it was pretty delicious.
So our trip's going off without a hitch until we need an Uber. They're in an Uber within.
Once we finished lunch, we ran into some trouble, though. We called the taxi back, and she had a wait list, so we weren't able to get a quick pickup, and we needed to get home pretty quickly. So we ended up finding two ladies in the parking lot who were loading up into their fancy golf cart, and we asked them for a ride back to the airport. They told us just to hop on and wouldn't take any money and ran us straight back to the airport. And turns out, past about a half dozen golf cart rental companies, something I didn't know existed. At some point on the ride home, we started to notice a bunch of weather buildups out on the horizon.
And now we're fighting the clock. You can see all the storm cells out there, so we might be picking our way through some weather on the way back, and we might come in through some clouds, so we'll see.
So once we got back to the airport, we got to move on. We loaded up quickly and got in the air trying to beat the weather home. I filed an IFR flight plan before we left the restaurant, so we flew along the beach for a couple miles, then turned north and called Corpus Christi approach to pick up our clearance.
Number 715 Bravo Bravo, Corpus approach.
We just departed Mustang Beach, RAS, looking to pick up IFR clearance to Executive, Austin Executive.
Number 715 Bravo Bravo, Squawk 4510.
4510, 5 Bravo Bravo.
They cleared us up to 6,000 feet initially, and then a few minutes later gave us 12,000 feet, which is what we requested. Because the military training areas were in use, we got routed up to San Antonio and then dogleg right over to Austin, which is a bit longer than the direct route we took down. For some reason, they handed us off to San Antonio approach, which you're not going to hear in this recording because I wasn't able to find that archive. But San Antonio approach asked us to descend down to 10,000 and then told us to expect to go down to 5,000. We asked them for a more direct route, but they weren't able to give it to us. So the ride home got really bumpy. It was some of the worst turbulence I've felt so far. In talking to friends, I think it's tame compared to what some people have experienced in small airplanes, but it was not fun. As we got into Austin, the commercial traffic was pretty heavy, so Austin Approach routed us over Austin Bergstrom Airport, and that delayed our arrival by a few minutes and put us a lot closer to the bad weather that we had been watching the whole way in. For the last 20 minutes of the flight, we were watching the weather system, approaching Austin Executive, and keeping a close eye on it. We also used our onboard radar to make sure we weren't flying into any storm cells because we were stuck in the clouds so often. We got one last surprise as we got close to Austin Executive. We were told to prepare for runway 13. So we had everything plugged in to the avionics, we had briefed the plate, we were ready to go, and Austin Executive issued a new weather report, and Austin Approach told us to prepare for runway 31 instead. So we had to scramble really quickly, brief a new plate, set everything up in the aircraft, and get on a new heading to get ready for the RNAV 31. So we joined the RNAV 31 and figured out that we had some pretty bad wind. It was about 60 degrees off of the runway heading and gusting almost 30 knots. So we had a pretty hairy landing coming in, and in a new plane, that's always a little bit stressful. Fortunately, it ended up being a pretty great landing. By the time we taxied back to the FBO, the wind was really ripping. It was rocking the plane back and forth as we were getting out. So we just barely beat the weather into Executive.
Yeah.